This is a lesson on measuring length. We will be using rulers and sometimes grid paper, depending on what you've got at home. And so I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to learn about measuring length in centimeters, millimeters, and meters. And when we're using a ruler, we just want to make sure that we're using the centimeters and not the inches. On a big ruler, the inches, they go up to 12, centimeters go up to 30. All right, so the first thing that you need to know is that you can use millimeters, centimeters, or meters to measure the length, width, height, or thickness of objects. You could use any one of those to measure any of the objects. But we usually choose millimeters for small objects, centimeters for medium objects, and meters for large objects, just to keep our numbers from being crazy. So here are some examples of things that you might measure using millimeters: a thumbtack, a ladybug, and a little pendant on a necklace. Things that you might use for centimeters are stuffies, or like an iPad or tablet, or just like a laptop, any technology, or things like that small-ish box. It's like, yay big. Basically, if it's like little itty bitty, then it's millimeters. If it's like this to like there, I don't know if you can see my hand, then you're gonna want centimeters. And then if it's bigger than that, you're gonna want meters. So examples of things that you might measure in meters, you could measure the car. You could measure this little playhouse shed thing. You could measure the classroom. I know that's not our classroom, but it's just a classroom. And then so when you're measuring, what you want to do is make sure that you start at the 0 on your ruler. So there, now you can see it. Okay, so you want to make sure that you start the object right at the edge of the 0. So if I'm measuring the width of my hand, I'm putting my hand right there, and then it's going all the way to the end, which looks like it is 7.5 centimeters. So that's either 7.5 centimeters or 75 millimeters. On the screen, we've got the bear, and obviously he'd be bigger than that, but just I put a ruler there to show you. He's a little tiny bear. So yeah, he starts at the 0, and then his foot ends right at where this arrow is, which is, if you count, there's a 3, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 ticks in, makes it either 37 millimeters or 3.7 centimeters. So make sure you're measuring precisely. Like this wouldn't be 4 centimeters or 3 centimeters unless we were estimating. All right, the next thing that you need to know about is a referent. So what a referent is it's used to estimate a measurement. It is the process of comparing objects to the size of various measurements. So like think of something that is 1 millimeter big, or think of something that is 1 centimeter big, or think of something that is 1 meter big, long, whatever. I don't have a meter stick here at home, so I can't show you that. But here are some examples of referents for each of our measurements. So for 1 millimeter, you could use the width of a dime. So that's like if you turn it on its side, and then just like the little tiny bit that it is, that would be a millimeter. And then for 1 centimeter, so we want it to be about from there to there. So if I use my little finger, you can see that there, it's about 1 centimeter wide. And then 1 meter wide would be like the width of the classroom door. Not like bedroom doors, oftentimes those are smaller, but classroom door is bigger. So it's about 1 meter is the width. So it's just a way to concretely think about these measurements and how big they actually are. And so the next one is that the last thing that you need to know is converting between millimeters, centimeters, and meters. And you saw this in the decimals unit that we did, and you definitely practiced it. So this is going to be more of a review. But here's a little chart that I've included for you on each page that you do this. But basically, find where you're starting. So if you're starting meters and you're going to centimeters, then find meters and then find the arrow that leads to centimeters and see what you need to do. This one means times 100. If you're going centimeters to millimeters, times by 10. So when you're getting smaller to the smaller measurements, your number is going to get bigger. So you're going to multiply. And then when you're going from smaller measurements to bigger measurements, your number is going to get smaller. So you're going to divide, right? Because if I have say 4 centimeters, How many millimeters is that? Well, 4 times 10 is 40, and that's 40 centimeters because each one of these has 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40. Yeah. And so let's do a couple of examples here. I'll just get my pen here. There we go. Oh, that's a highlighter. We don't want highlighter. That should work. All right, so in our examples, we've got 75 centimeters into millimeters. So we're going from centimeters and we're going to end up at millimeters. So that means that we're following this arrow right here and we're timesing by 10. So 75 times 10 is 750 millimeters. Next up is millimeters to meters. So we're starting at millimeters and we're going all the way to meters way over here. So if we follow the arrow right here, that means that we need to divide by 1,000. Now, not as hard as it sounds. It's not a big deal. We just count our zeros. So we have 1, 2, 3 zeros in 1,000. 1, 2, 3. And then we're just going to cross off zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then whatever's left is our answer. So 6,000 millimeters is 6 meters. And then our last one is going from meters to centimeters. And so meters to centimeters here, going full circle, we're following this arrow right here, which means we're timesing by 100. So 7 times 100 is 700. It's not complicated multiplication. And so that's the basics of what you are going to do in this. And then one last thing, I just need to stop sharing my screen here so you can see. There's one part of your assignment where you are going to be asked to draw objects that are a certain like length. So let's say we were asked to draw, and you're going to do it with a pencil, something that is like a taco, let's say. That's we'll go 9 centimeters. So we're going to take our ruler, we're going to make a tick right at the 0, and then we're going to go not move our ruler at all, and then make one at the 9. Now, if we need to have our taco 9 centimeters wide, then we know that it's going to be from there to there, and it can't be any bigger. So then I'm just going to draw my taco. This is a hard shell taco, by the way. Put some lettuce, and then I'll put the other part of it there. There we go. And then we would go like this, draw a line. Probably best to use a ruler here, but 9 centimeters. And then I can show that it is 9 centimeters big. And it's not that easy to write across like this. So I know yours is going to look better than mine. In the assignment, you'll see an example of Crusoe, and I colored it for you, but here's a better example. So he's supposed to be 9 centimeters tall. So I did that. I drew the lines, and then I drew Crusoe, and then I put how tall he is. And this one's colored. You'll only see the pencil one on the assignment. So lucky you if you watch this whole video. But yeah, I hope you have an awesome time with doing your assignment. It's going to be fun to get to draw.